Hello and welcome to the History Fella channel. My name is Ben and this is True Crime. In today's episode we're going to be looking at something slightly different today. Rather than a murderer or a killer, we're going to be looking at a victim who has only recently been identified. This is the case of Joseph Augustus Zarelli, or it might also be known to you as the Boy in the Box, or America's Unknown Child. Joseph Augustus Zarelli was born January 13th, 1953, and died in February 1957. He was an American boy, aged 4 years old, whose naked, extensively beaten dead body was found on the side of Susquehanna Road in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on February 25th, 1957. Joseph appeared to have been cleaned and freshly groomed, with a recent haircut and trimmed fingernails, although he'd just suffered extensive physical abuse prior to his death, with multiple bruises on his body. Joseph was also severely malnourished. The body was covered with scars, some of which were surgical, and authorities believe that the cause of death was homicide by blunt force trauma. Despite the publicity and sporadic interest throughout the years, the boy's identity remained unknown for over half a century. On November the 30th, 2022, the Philadelphia Police Department announced that detectives had determined the boy's identity using DNA and geological databases. On December the 8th, 2022, after more than 65 years after his body was found, the boy was publicly identified as Joseph Augustus Zarelli during a press conference held by Philadelphia Police Department. On February the 25th, 1957, Zarelli's body was wrapped in a plaid blanket, was found in the woods off Susquehanna Road in Fox Chase, Philadelphia. The boy was discovered by a young man who was checking his muskrat traps. Fearing that the police would confiscate his traps, he did not report what he'd found. But then a few days later, a college student spotted a rabbit running into the underbrush. Knowing that there were animal traps in the area, he stopped his car to investigate and discovered the body. He was also reluctant to have contact with the authorities, but he did report what he'd found the following day, after hearing of the disappearance of Mary Jane Barker. The naked body was inside a cardboard box that had been once contained a bassinet of the kind sold by J.C. Penney. Zarelli's hair had been recently cropped or cut, possibly after death, as clumps of hair were clung to his body. There were signs of severe malnourishment, as well as surgical scars on the ankle and groin area, and an L-shaped scar under his chin. The police received the report and opened an investigation on February the 26th. The dead boy's fingerprints were taken, and police were at first optimistic that he'd be identified soon. However, no one came forward with any useful information. The case attracted considerable media attention in Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley. The Philadelphia Inquirer printed 400,000 flyers depicting the boy's likeness, which were sent out and posted across the area and were included with every gas bill in Philadelphia. The crime scene was combed over and over again by 270 police academy recruits, who discovered a man's blue corduroy cap, a child's scarf, and a man's white handkerchief with the letter G in the corner, all clues that led nowhere. The police also distributed a post-mortem photograph of the boy's fully dressed body in a seated position as he may have looked in life, in the hope that this might lead to a clue. In 1998, his body was exhumed for the purpose of extracting DNA, which was obtained from a tooth. On March 21st, 2016, the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children released a forensic facial reconstruction of the victim and added him onto their database. The body was then exhumed yet again in 2019 to retrieve additional DNA samples. The child was an unidentified murder victim for decades. However, on November 30th, 2022, the Philadelphia Police Department announced that they had identified the child through the use of genetic testing and investigative genetic genealogy, and that they would provide a case update in the following week. Sources stated that he was the child of a prominent family in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Authorities said that the investigation will use the new information to continue to search for suspects. And on December 8th, 2022, the child was publicly identified as 4-year-old Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born on January 13th, 1953. Genealogists had uncovered his name more than a year earlier, in October 2021. On January 19th, 2023, the names of Zarelli's parents were reported. Investigators were finally able to identify him after a cousin uploaded DNA to a public database. Investigators subsequently encouraged the person's mother, a first cousin of Zarelli, to submit a genetic profile to the GED match, which she did, allowing investigators to identify his parents. A court order for the child's birth certificate was then made, which revealed the child's name and his parents' names, subsequently verified by DNA. Now, in this case, over the years and decades, there have been a number of theories. The foster home. This theory concerns a foster home that was located approximately 1.5 miles from the site of the body. In 1960, Remington Bristow, an employee of the medical examiner's office who doggedly pursued the case until his death in 1993, contacted the New Jersey psychic, who told him to look out for a house that matched a foster home. When the psychic was brought to the Philadelphia discovery site, she led Bristow directly to the foster home. Upon attending an estate sale at the foster home, Bristow discovered a bassinet similar to the one sold at J.C. Penney. He also discovered blankets hanging on the clothesline that were similar to the one in which the boy's body had been wrapped when they discovered him. Bristow believed that the boy belonged to the stepdaughter of the man who ran the foster home, and that they had disposed of his body so the stepdaughter would not be exposed as an unwed mother. However, the police have established that all the foster children were accounted for, and a re-examination by police investigators confirmed that the family were likely not involved. In 1998, Philadelphia Police Lieutenant Tom Augustine, who was in charge of the investigation, and several members of the Vidau CQ Society, a group of retired policemen and profilers, interviewed the foster father and stepdaughter, and the foster home investigation was closed. The other theory, the woman known as Martha, or M, was brought forward in February 2002 by a woman who identified only as Martha, or M. She stated that the parents of the boy murdered him. or